So on this week's episode of Be More Super, the podcast, we've got another treat for you. So from the house of Kibaa, is that correct? I've just thought, brilliant. And also he is the executive producer of Genzeroes that is coming out very, very soon. It's Neil Stevenson-Moore. Neil, welcome to the show, sir.
Brian, thank you for having me.
It is a pleasure. It really, really is. And I've got to say, NFTs are a thing of the future. I'm excited to talk about NFTs, about this show that's coming out. Also, Alex Ponovic, who's a friend of the show as well, he was kind enough to appear on the show when I first started at the beginning of the pandemic. But as I always ask my guests, it's a bit of a check-in, really. I mean, obviously, this pandemic has taken its toll on everyone. How have you dealt with it over the last 2 years? How have you kept positive, and how have you kept moving forward step by step?
No, I appreciate the question. Well, for my wife and I, we were blessed actually we were pregnant when the pandemic started. So that brought with it a raft of anxieties, especially when everyone kept saying, well, we don't know. But the short answer of how I kept sane was we had to move because we were in a one-bedroom apartment once the child came. And as anyone that's had a little one can imagine, all of a sudden 700 square feet felt like 100 square feet. And so we moved. But for me, it was just a lot of getting outside. I'm somewhat of a naturally optimistic person. So I tried to stay in touch with friends. I actually ran a weekly game show night for family and friends where we did trivia.
That's awesome.
I'm kind of a huge nerd, so I love doing those kind of things. I got to be very, very good at PowerPoint and making it using the animations and such. But no, thank you for asking. And it's been, and believe it or not, one of the best things to happen to us was when we finally got COVID. We were lucky to get it in one of the later variants. It wasn't as severe, and we were vaccinated. But once my son Heath had it removed a lot of the anxiety, which is a bit of a weird thing to say, but it's like waiting for bad news. And we were very fortunate to only get a mild version of it. I know.
I think as parents as well, during the beginning of the pandemic, I mean, I've got 2 small young girls, and I've got to say, from a father's point of view, it was horrific because you didn't know, how serious it was going to be. You didn't know what effect it would have, and I suppose that you're lucky that you had the little one when you did, because when he grows up, he probably won't have any recollection of anything that's happened, which is good. So I wanted to ask Neil, how does one go from being an ice hockey player to a tech guru? How does that happen? It's just a great transition.
No, it's funny. I actually played in Edinburgh the year that I played professionally. But how did it happen? As I said off the top, I've always been a nerd. I was that kid that if I wasn't in math class, then I was in the computer lab coding and doing 3D animation, but not 3D animation with the tools they had today. We had to code the, parabolic gravity wells and all the different pieces. And if I wasn't on the ice, where I was a fairly, let's call it, aggressive player. So if I wasn't on the ice training, I was in a computer lab or I was reading. And then for me, it was always, and even with NFTs now, it's been exciting to be on the forefront and connecting in blogs and chat rooms and speaking with people all around the world. So it was, even when I was playing, I helped a couple of friends launch businesses as a coder, and then more recently moved into the business side, I guess more recently, 10 years ago. And I was lucky enough to have some successes in launching companies. And then when it came to NFTs, it really was something that we saw, and I see as the future of what's happening. So, but there was a lot of things that are similar to playing hockey to being a tech executive. You need to have a great team. you need to forget past failures really quickly because they happen quickly. And you just need to make sure that everyone's pulling in the same direction.
And I suppose that when you're losing, I suppose you don't have a all-round fight like they do in ice hockey.
Yeah, the physical side of it manifests itself less nowadays than it used to. Um, but the one exciting thing is you try to, as anyone that plays sports knows, the best part about failure is that there's another shift right afterwards. There's a chance to make up for it immediately. Whereas in the tech world, sometimes it takes a bit longer to prove yourself right or wrong. So that's the biggest change.
And some people say that failing is a good thing because you've discovered another way not to do it to do it better next time. And ice hockey, for me, I've only been to one game ever, and that was the Washington Capitals against the Maple Leafs years ago. But I've got a local team to me, the Nottingham Panthers, that I've never been to see, but I need to go and see them and support my local team.
You should, and I will give a shout out to the English Elite Hockey League. They are very well respected around North America. It's somewhere where a lot of expats, children of British parents, often go to play, and a lot of people don't realize that ice hockey's been in Britain since World War One. In a professional state, and you guys have some incredible rinks. The Nottingham Panthers in particular are a very well-run organization that have a great fan base. So a little shout out to everyone in Nottingham that's listening.
That is awesome. So let's talk about NFTs, because when I found out that I was going to have you on the show, literally, I was excited because Genzeroes looks absolutely amazing, and I'm just excited, and I'm not sure exactly what it's all about, but I'm excited. I really am, just by the social media that it's I've seen with Alex Ponovic. So let's talk about NFTs, because this is something that has blown my mind, and after quite a bit of research and trying to get my head around it, I can see how it's going to be the future. But I was amazed to find out that NFTs sell for a lot of money. I mean, Jack Dorsey, the co-founder of Twitter. I will edit that out. So I'd find out that yeah, exactly. He may own that as well. You know what? I'm going to keep it in. I hate editing stuff out. I'm completely 100% natural. So Jack Dorsey, the co-founder of Twitter, sold his first ever tweet for $2.9 million. And I've got the tweet here on your screen just there. And I cannot believe that sold for 2.9 million. It's just amazing. And then, if that wasn't good enough, a JPEG sold for 69 million. So this is just amazing to see. And I've had many conversations with friends and colleagues at work around it. So could you explain to all the people under the rocks and the dinosaurs like myself, what is an NFT?
So I will save the audience the lecture on what non-fungible, fungible tokens and ERC and all the different standards are. And we'll say, if anyone really wants to dive down the rabbit hole, just go to YouTube. There's lots of great videos. But to really understand NFTs and why they are the future, there's two things to look at. The first is, I just want you to close your eyes for a minute and think about how much of your time is spent in a digital environment. Whether it's what you and I are doing right now, speaking through a computer, whether it's when you jump on the tube or you jump on a train and you see everyone staring at their phones. And the fact that Facebook has pivoted to become meta and everything is moving, we hear about these nebulous metaverses. That's another conversation we can have about what is the metaverse. But just how much of your time is spent digitally. Now think about this idea of proving things digitally, and think about how many fake accounts there are that bully children and hurt their mental health, or how many scams there are online. And what NFTs are is a way of cutting all that out and proving things digitally by using blockchain technology. But really, at its core, especially in the iterations they are now, NFTs are the earliest versions of digital IP protection. So whether you are a musician, an artist, a photographer, a videographer, television series like ourselves, anything that you're doing that needs to have that veracity and that originality protected will be protected by an NFT, by the technology behind it. So the reason they're selling for millions and millions of dollars or millions of pounds is many people believe it's an opportunity to buy the first Van Gogh or the first Monet and actually know that it is a Monet, as opposed to how many museums get scammed thinking they have one and then they find out later they paid an exorbitant sum for it. So at its core, NFTs are going to be the way we prove things digitally, and they'll manifest themselves as tickets to sporting events. They'll manifest themselves as the way that you rent movies in the future. But it's does that help?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I got my head around this because I was looking at, obviously original artists that are selling their work through NFT. And then I thought, it's a bit like the sponsors of my show, which is Prop Store. They sell screen use props and costumes. So I've got a shirt and a pair of jeans that you could buy in the shop easily, probably for about $80. But this shirt and jeans were worn by Kiefer Sutherland in 24, screen worn and matched. So for me, that is a one-off, non-fungible item, because there's only one of those. So I suppose it's like collecting artwork, but it's doing it digitally. And I like the idea of the blockchain method, and it reminds me a lot of futuristic films that you watch. So when people have got like credits on like a little like machine and they pass it to each other, and you haven't got a middle person like the banks involved. That's the way I'm getting it. I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but
no, that's perfect. For any sports fan that has ever bought a game-worn jersey by their favorite player, how is that different than the one you can buy in the shop? Just put it on a sweaty guy, and you could say it's the same, but it's not. There's
and what do you think the future of NFTs are going to look like 10 years down the line?
I think what's exciting and why Genzeroes is leaning into it, the most important thing to us, I'm going to say this a couple of times, so you'll forgive me, but everyone, please go to genzeroes.com and sign up on our mailing list. I can't give away anything too much yet. We have a couple of huge announcements coming next week, but we're also going to be running giveaways for anyone that wants to get an NFT, get access. I'm winking right now because there's some really exciting things coming down the pipe. But what is the future? It's going to be things. The second piece that NFTs provide is a connection for the community. Let's go back to that Kiefer Sutherland outfit you have. So you might have it hung up on the wall in a frame, I don't know, beside the picture of the frame of him wearing that in the show. But imagine if with the NFTs in a digital world, you could actually go in and behind the scenes and actually watch that scene being filmed. And not only watch that scene being filmed, you could actually put yourself and walk around it in 360 degrees, that whole experience. The way that things are getting filmed right now, whether it's the light wall for The Mandalorian with 360 degree video capture, NFTs are going to provide fan bases with the ability to own the frame from Star Wars where Luke gets his arm cut off by Darth Vader. They will own that frame, that one of one. There will be the opportunity to watch a sci-fi thriller and then go into that scene and find clues behind the scenes. It's really going to change everything. But as I said, anything that you do digitally will end up being on an NFT if you need to prove that it is something. So, but that interaction is going to be really, really exciting.
And I heard a phrase saying it's pushing our minds on how we value and validate things. And I think that, I suppose it's getting people to understand the value. And, with modern technology, I'm a great believer in that if you don't get on it now, it's going so fast. Literally, you're going to be playing catch up, and I'm so excited to, see what technology brings us in the future. So let's talk about House of Kibaa, because you're the CPO. I'm not sure what that stands for.
Chief Product Officer.
There we go. So what is House of Kibaa, and what do they do?
So House of Kibaa was founded by a gentleman named Jason Ewan, and you talk about being on the cutting edge of technology and being a visionary. He's someone that saw NFTs, was one of the earliest people in, whether it was NBA Top Shot, which is NFTs that are sports collectibles for the NBA, for basketball. But he's also an animator and an artist at heart. So his vision, he was already envisioning the metaverse 2 years ago, was envisioning where NFTs would go. And he shared his vision online with the larger community. And as I'm sure some of your fans will point out, there are some NFT projects out there that they're not scams, but they're also not as legitimate as they portray themselves. And Jason really leaned into making sure that we were an authentic company and that we operated with integrity. So everything that we said we would do, we've done. Anyone that wants to follow us, join our Discord. You can ask. We have a very passionate community. And what House of Kibaa is doing is we kind of have three pillars. First pillar is we are building a metaverse, which will be announced. We've announced the metaverse, but there'll be a larger announcement of it towards the end of March. But we also have these projects, things like the Genzeroes. So the Genzeroes evolved from an NFT project that we created called GenX. We raised $6.5 million in 37 minutes selling these characters. These characters will be something that people can use and walk around as in the metaverse.
Is this one of the characters by any chance?
That is one of the characters. And what we did is we wanted to give them more of a story, though, more of a backstory. You can see them. The artists we were working with came from Marvel, came from Disney, and envisioned a much larger landscape. And I'm sure we'll get to this in a minute. We can chat about how I got Alex involved. But what House of Kibaa believes is that the best future in the metaverse is going to be driven by creators. You hear a lot about creator culture. So the people that are active on Instagram and post a lot and all these digital places where we live our lives, the metaverse is going to be an extension of that. And we want to create the tools that really help everyone experience that in a meaningful, but also safe and proactive and productive way. So that's really what House of Kibaa is. We're artist and creator driven, which has spawned the projects like the Genzeroes.
That's awesome. And let's talk about Genzeroes, because literally Deadline reported it online, and straight away, the backstory got me excited. If you can explain what Genzeroes is, what it's about, and where it came from. Obviously, you've said it's come from the Gen X line of characters, but I mean, how did the project, get off the ground?
So, how did the project get off the ground? So we raised that money with the Gen X's. We had other promises that we owed the community, whether it was building out our metaverse. So a lot of money went there. But when I was brought in right before the launch, and I interacted with the community a lot. And again, being a nerd, I looked at the two different communities. There is both the NFT community and the sci-fi community have several similarities. We get really passionate about new, exciting technology. They both go really deep on things. You can imagine the people at Comic-Con that dress up as their favorite characters from different sci-fi shows. And it's all about community. It's all about bringing these pieces together. So being in Vancouver, a lot of people don't know, maybe a lot of your listeners don't know, but Vancouver is actually, there's more films and TV shows filmed in Vancouver than anywhere else in the world. And Vancouver has a great history of sci-fi, whether it was X-Files, Continuum, Battlestar Galactica. It was all filmed and produced here. So Alex Paul Novick has been a good friend of mine for 15 years. And I met Alex when he had just come into acting, when he'd left being a heavy metal musician, which he still is, by the way. You're going to be able to, this is a little bit of a teaser, but you're going to be able to hear one of his band's tracks in the show. And I reached out to Alex and I said, look, we've created these characters. The Gen X's were based on this idea of these 10 faction leaders. And we had the idea of let's create 10 backstories, kind of 2 to 5 minute shorts about these faction leaders and give them heart and give them a lore. And as we dug into it, we spoke with Alex, and I kind of pitched one budget to my board, and they approved that. And Alex said, well, if we're going to do this, here's the writers we should work with. And he introduced me to Matt and Jeremy, who'd written for Van Helsing and Continuum and a series of other sci-fi shows. And we sat down and we talked, and the conversation ended up going about 4 hours, and without exaggeration. And we got really excited about building this new sci-fi world and leveraging NFTs to help bring the community in. At the end of that conversation, I went back to my board and I literally asked them for double the budget because we started putting some numbers and it grew. So the cost of 10 episodes was double what I had said. And then when we started sharing this with some of the actors in this vision, Matt and Jeremy wrote a Bible, this backstory for the 10 faction leaders. And it really is incredible. We knew that this was everyone's going to look at what we do and go, hold on, is this just a project made around NFT characters? And we knew it had to be a great story. So by investing in these talented writers, they ended up producing something that's kind of like Game of Thrones, but just set 200 years in the future. These 10 factions with political infighting, a lot of intrigue behind it. And the story they wrote, we didn't put a title on it. We didn't share it with people. So people saw it blind, attracted some pretty incredible sci-fi actors. So now I had to go back to my board and ask for even more money. But all the actors that were getting involved are actually doing it for scale, meaning they're taking like a 70% discount. And Brian, I'll send you the list, but can't announce it until next week. And yeah. And then I once we started producing this further and some of the names we got, we actually ended up taking that budget that I promised the board I wouldn't ask for any more and said, instead of spending that on 10, we'll only spend that on 4. So we announced Alex, we announced the writers, and Deadline covered it. And then I probably and by the way, that Deadline article got picked up by something like 250 different outlets, which apparently is going viral for a Deadline article. Mm-hmm. And we got calls from Netflix, Amazon, Peacock, everyone wanting to know, how are you using NFTs? What are NFTs? How are they going to work in this environment? So anyway, we're now well over budget. Well, not over budget. That's the wrong term. The board saw the vision. We saw what was happening, the talent that we got involved. So it really became something that instead of trying to do 10 episodes for X amount, we're doing 4 episodes for 5 times that amount. We are working with some incredible professionals, cast and crew. And now I'll give you the backstory. So yeah, the backstory is we all think 2020, 2021 was rough with COVID and all the wildfires and killer bees and everything else. It gets worse in 2022. We're going to be attacked by aliens. But what I loved when Matt and Jeremy pitched it is it wasn't this case of, these aliens that come and they're so much stronger than us and we beat them by some weird computer virus that they didn't know about, or, it's nothing like that.
Yeah.
These guys imagine Vikings coming and attacking the Angles back in the 1300s. It's much more about this marauding force that comes through and leaves, and how does humanity rebuild? So humanity comes together and we prepare for the Vikings to come back and attack us again. We've taken some of their technology, and as much as we've lost, 7/8 of our population, we've never been more technologically advanced. And we're working together for about 100 years as we remember this attack, and we're focused on being ready. but the aliens don't return. And then 100 years in, as I said, humans start doing what humans do and kind of getting jealous and greedy and want more of what the other people do. So these 10 factions split, and we pick up the story with these 10 factions 200 years after the attack, where the aliens, they haven't been forgotten by any imagination, but it's not about this alien race. It's about the infighting within the communities, within the factions, and makes the viewer behind the scenes of, and again, there's a lot of things to draw from in our last 2 years, but what would happen when tensions get pushed and humans get divided into 10 groups. And I'll tell the audience, it's really pretty exciting what we put together. And so we'll be releasing starting in March. And we're actually using both live action and comic books to tell the story. So it goes live action episode, comic book, live action episode, comic book. So four live action episodes featuring some incredible actors. Dropping in March. So again, go to the website, get on the mailing list if you're going to want access to this.
That sounds absolutely awesome. I mean, is there any plans on more to come? I mean, is this a one-off, or are you planning to do more seasons, more episodes?
No, we're 100% planning on doing not only just the 10 episodes, but based on the conversations, based on just the scripts alone, we've had some of the streamers talk to us about licensing and creating a full series. So it really is a testament to the writers and how strong the story is and the vision for multiple seasons. So it's definitely not a one-off. And that's kind of one of the exciting parts for the community as well, is imagine, again, I wouldn't pretend that we are Star Wars or we are Star Trek or anything along those lines, but imagine being on the ground floor of a brand new series and being one of the NFT holders of the original artwork or the original pieces from what could be a really incredible project. I mean, I'm humbled working with this team and that they let me help participate, but that's kind of it's kind of exciting. So, but yeah, the vision is much larger than just these first 4 episodes.
And Alex has already posted on social media that he's part of the Aurora Clan. So apparently no other clans matter, and that is the clan to be part of. So I'm just going with Alex. I trust in him. So I'll be behind Aurora Clan. So how can people actually watch this show? I mean, when you say go to your website and purchase an NFT, what does that mean? And sort of roughly how much that costs?
Great question.
What are we looking at?
No, great question. So the way to think of it is NFTs are going to become, at least we believe, NFTs are going to become part of the journey of a film. So when you think about the current journey of a film, it starts, maybe some writers have written something, maybe a studio asks somebody to write something, and it's a studio that decides whether or not it gets made. And then it goes into theater where you're paying, what is it in London now, £20 to go to one of these things?
Probably, yeah, 25.
Yeah, so you're, and same thing here in Vancouver. And then it comes out and it goes to video on demand where you can buy it, before it's on the streaming networks, kind of the new rentals. And then it goes on to a streaming network. We believe in what House of Kibaa Productions and our team is building is a change to that. So not only are we doing Genzeroes, we have several other projects we're going to be announcing soon, but it'll be a chance for the community to see and be part of this early journey, see the pilots, read the scripts, decide if they want to invest in them. And that investment will come in many forms. It might come in, they want to put $10,000 in, like a Kickstarter, and own. You just showed that image of the Aurora Clan. We're going to be producing these suits, and maybe somebody wants to own one of those suits. Or it might be $20 just to say, hey, I believe in this, and I want to be able to see this when it first comes to market. And what that will allow the community to do is really help, take that power out of the studio hands and say, here's what we want to see made. And then that will get produced based on that involvement, building a community around it, maybe a studio kicks in more funding to then move it back onto that train track. But to answer your question directly, we don't have any for sale today. We're going to be opening them. I'm looking at a chart behind the screen. Probably the first week of March or the last week of February, we're going to release a limited number of NFTs. And then, as I said, we're going to be doing at some point some giveaways for people to come in and just earn an NFT, whether it's liking us on Twitter, following us, or our existing community. But the price range, will kind of be from $20, so £13, all the way up to $1,000 if we're releasing something really rare or really special. But our big goal for the community is that they see really good value in this. And it won't be, we're not trying to nickel and dime the community by any stretch of the imagination. It really is about giving them great value and a great experience as a fan.
And I completely agree. It's great to take out the streaming services, I suppose, and the fans actually supporting something that they want to get behind. And fans of the sci-fi world are definitely passionate, as you said earlier on in the show. And
we've only released the names for clans. That's all we've given them, and a little bit of a description. And we have people picking sides already. And they're writing. We've had people submit backstories with people building on it, giving us ideas, and we find this incredible. So, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Brian.
Yeah, I mean, it opens up to loads of things like potential computer games. With the clans, with the characters. I think that's awesome. I mean, I've seen some pictures of some of the artwork, but in real costumes. Is that real, or is that just someone messing with us with computer generated images?
Can I decline to answer? No.
No comment.
It's somewhere in between, to be honest.
Because it looks awesome.
Thank you. No, and just watch over the next 8-10 weeks. The imagery coming out ahead of the drop is incredible. We are blessed to have an incredible art director named Xander Smith, who's worked again on Marvel, on Disney movies. A lot of the comps you're seeing right now are developed in Unreal Engine, so they are 3D assets. However, producing these products as well, whether it's the helmets from the suits or some of the suits themselves, to be used in filming. So it's a little bit of both. But yeah, we're so excited. Our team is incredible. Our art team. We have a girl named Eugenia that every day we do show and tell on Thursdays, and the team just gets so excited.
It must be such a magical place to work, because you can just tell by how you're speaking how passionate, and it must be. It's nice to have a job that you enjoy, because you work to live, you don't live to work. But in your case, you must be absolutely loving life, being part of such a great project. And it's my hope to get Alex on the show to chat about this show. But now he's a big star. He's a big star now, and trying to get him on the show. I'm going to try my best, and fingers crossed, once I see the list of other stars, I can maybe try my best to get them on the show as well, to plug the show. So fingers crossed.
I will make sure we get at least one of the stars on the show, and I'll try to.
That is awesome.
Get you some of the young ones, because there's a couple of stars that we were lucky to get, that I think are going to be huge stars, just huge.
Yeah. That is awesome. And lastly, looking at what we've spoken about NFTs, I've got to read this out because I want to get it right. How do you think you could reach a wider audience who may not have thought about NFTs before? Because I think NFTs is geared towards a tech-savvy audience. But, do you think that there's a way of getting to those people that may not be, that might actually, enjoy getting NFTs or being part of it?
I think that's a great question. Anyone NFTs are certainly part of the cultural conversation right now. It's something that people hear a lot of, and they have very visceral reactions. They either say, oh, it's just a JPEG, I could take a screenshot of that and have the same thing. But as we've discussed, they're going to become just a mainstay in everything we do. But I hate to say it again, come to the website. We're actually redeveloping it as we speak. We want to help educate as much as anything else. So if you have questions about it, pretty quickly, we're going to send out emails to our mailing list that help educate people on what is an NFT, how do you get one, how to participate. So it's going to be something, we see it as part of our responsibility to help onboard people new to the community as well. So it's a great question, but I think that just dig in deep and go to YouTube and spend a little bit of time.
And I'll make sure in the description of this video, if you're watching now, look at the description. I'll put on the link for Discord, how to get on the mailing list, every link possible to support this project and this company, because I'm just so looking forward to it. I get very easily excited about things, especially coming out of the pandemic. Anything good and excited, I'm 100% behind, and I look forward to everything in the future that you produce, and I'll make sure that I feature it on the show. But Neil, you've been a great guest. It's been great chatting to you. I feel that I've got a bit more of a grasp on NFTs and everything like that, which for a dinosaur like myself, is good going.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Brian. I really appreciate it. And next time I'm in the UK and Nottingham, I'll take you to a hockey game.
Oh yes, that would be awesome.